How is it that this delightful little Super Nintendo racing title is a distant relative to the Grand Theft Auto game series, and exactly why did it incur the wrath of a certain animation giant? This story, along with sports and your local weather on today's thought-provoking episode of Homeboys in Outer Space. The Super Nintendo was no stranger to quirky racing titles, having been the system that introduced F-Zero and Super Mario Kart. In the console's later years, after the industry had dipped its toes in the waters of three-dimensional graphics, two more fun casual racing games were released. These were 1994's Stunt Race FX, which utilized the same Super FX chip found in the successful Star Fox to render the now primitive polygon graphics in real time, and the game we're discussing today, Uniracers, which utilized pre-rendered sprites. Uniracers was developed by DMA Designs, who through various acquisitions and mergers would eventually become Rockstar North. You know, the Grand Theft Auto guys. The insane amount of detail put into the unicycle was in response to the graphical accomplishments of another well-known Nintendo franchise, Donkey Kong. The character's return to the limelight brought with it new lifelike animation techniques that came from pre-rendering detailed 3D models. DMA's unicycle was more of a tech demo to see how well they could simulate the one-wheeled mode of transportation. It eventually evolved into plans for an action platformer, and soon thereafter, the stunt racing title that we got today. Strangely enough, the insanely detailed lifelike unicycle travels along a flat, two-dimensional plane with minimal background graphics. This was a side effect of the insane memory hog that unicycle was, but it also helped the game move at a breakneck speed. Indeed, one of the game's intentions was to show that the Super Nintendo Entertainment System was quite capable of the fast-scrolling gameplay that Sega liked to brag about in their comparison ads, particularly with their Sonic the Hedgehog line of games. Outside of the unique vehicles and presentation, the gameplay options fall in line with most of the other games in the stunt racing genre. You have multiple tracks to race on spread across numerous tours, named after animals, which is a good indication of their speed and difficulty. Your goal is to get bronze or better on each, preferably scoring gold to open up new tours. Some tracks are straightforward races, where your goal is to get to the finish line before the computer-controlled racer. The circuit races are the same idea, except you have multiple laps. Since the circuit loops back on itself vertically, there will be a point where you will have to spin yourself back on your wheel, lest you wipe out and lose precious time. Besides that, pulling off some quick tricks is essential as you'll gain momentum, allowing you to go even faster. Finally, the stunt tracks are where you get to really show off your moves, trying to do as many combinations of tricks as possible in a time limit to reach a target score. The more variety you exhibit, the higher the score. Although appearing inconsequential at first glance, the track design does convey very important information to you as you speed down the track. Blue and green portions are fairly safe to throw down some quick flips and wind-ins, but once you start seeing red-blue combinations, there's something up ahead you'll definitely want to pay heed. Jumping of any kind is ill-advised. And if you're unfortunate enough to see a red-yellow portion of the track, you're off course quite a bit. Two-player mode is present and accounted for. You can race head-to-head with a friend on a split-screen display, or form a league with up to 8 other players to really battle it out with the entire neighborhood in a series of two-player battles, and see who is the supreme champion of Uniracers. As if that's a thing. Uniracers is truly a quick, fun game that deserves to be experienced. But why haven't more people played this game? The reason is equal parts depressing and ridiculous. In 1987, Pixar released their second short film, a 4-minute piece called Red's Dream, about a lonely unicycle sitting alone in a corner of a bicycle store, dreaming of a better life. When Uniracers came out in 1994, they felt the design of the unicycle, especially seeing as they were both creations of CGI, was a bit too close to their own. They successfully sued DMA Designs, and as a result, any further production of Uniracers was halted after the initial 300,000 unit run. And this also means you'll never see any sort of sequel, remake, or virtual console release. Strangely enough, for an uncommon game, it's still relatively inexpensive. I bought my copy here from Digital Press for somewhere between $25 and $30, complete in box on top of that. It's not a highly in-demand title, which is a shame because it's definitely worth a play. If you see this one in your travels, you should definitely give it a good, loving home. It may not be the deepest game ever, but it definitely deserves a second look. For TV Games, this is Dave Rarichich. Back to you, Skip.